everybody. Welcome to our 19th episode of Spiritual Spiral. This is so crazy and exciting, and I'm your host, Sam Davidson, of course, joined by my good friend and co-host, Sari Cohen.
Hello.
And we have a very special guest this week, all the way from Canada, Ila Sharma. She is a human design expert. You know, that's really what she does, but she caters it to tell you how to manifest best and what best ways are to do that. So, and you also have an amazing podcast called The Wellness Bar, which comes with a huge community of people, which we'll get into later. So thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you guys for having me. I've heard only lovely things about both of you, and I've spoken to some friends who've also been on, and they were like, you're going to love the girls so much. The energy is so lovely. You're going to enjoy it so much. So I was really looking forward to this.
I know, me too. I was like going through your, the Wellness Bar Instagram last night, just really like digging in. It's so cool. I really like the way you phrase things, and aesthetically, the way you can transfer your information to your audience. It catches the eye and it makes a lot of sense. And I just think it's like, you're kind of like the perfect millennial, I feel like, as far as the way you get your information across, like in a good way. Do you know what I mean?
I appreciate that. That's really nice. Thanks so much.
Well, I want to hear about your past. How did you get started doing this? And if you always been in touch with this spiritual side of yourself, or did something happen that really triggered that?
So manifestation for me has been about a 20-year journey that I've been studying it. It's been something that I think I've just have been put on this earth in this specific lifestyle cycle, to explore. I started when I was a very, very little girl, and then I went through about 20 years of trial and error trying to understand how to optimize my manifestation practice, how to understand like what the main pillars of it were, how it works, all the metaphysical stuff, all the quantum mechanical stuff. And then human design was a natural progression for me because I found human design to be a really excellent tool in helping understand how I can help not just myself, but other people optimize their manifestation practice. So we can get into that a little bit and why everyone's manifestation practice is going to be slightly different soon. But to answer your question, it's been a long journey, about 20 years. And I grew up, I'm half Indian and I'm half English. So I grew up with a Hindu grandmother and Hindu family members. So meditation, yoga, visualization, reincarnation, these were all sort of, basic things that we practiced every day. When I was older, it wasn't some like new age, a given. So I think that I had that in, and I think that manifestation was not such a far stretch for me when I was a child. I still believed in Santa Claus, so nothing was that far of a stretch for me. So magic wasn't that inaccessible at that point. But I had this amazing portal into this world because my grandmother would teach me about meditation. She would teach me about different gurus I could listen to. And we had this really beautiful relationship with the universe that I feel like I was taught from a very young age. So that's kind of how I got into it.
That's amazing.
So really cool. And I'm interested now in how you specifically practice manifestation, because I hear a lot of people talking about it these days. And I love how you pointed out that everyone does that differently. Because I'm finding, some people it's in thoughts, some people it's in actions, so what is it for you? What's your practice like?
So it's a big question. Like my overall practice is, I actually did a full episode where I talk about like the three basic pillars, the overall framework of it, which is the first episode of the Wellness Bar. If anyone wants to listen to the like hour-long version of that. But for
it's
me,
so good, by the way. You guys do a really, really good job. You guys should check it out.
Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate that. So as you said, sorry, manifestation, not a one size fits all. I ask for it. I'm going to be blindly positive about it until it apparates into my life. That's manifestation. I don't subscribe to that method. I tried that method. I was able to be unwaveringly faithful to my belief because I was just a kid when I first discovered this. So I was very unencumbered by the fear and conditioning that I now, have accumulated over the years. But for me, manifestation is about three things. So number one is my relationship with myself. So I'm extremely clear on who I am, what my divine purpose is here, and what my divine path looks like, and how to get back on it when I diverge from it. So with that being said, I have a deep understanding, and there's still more to uncover. Relationship with self is an ongoing process whereby I understand what I truly authentically want in life and what I'm authentically meant to contribute, because every single person is valuable, whether it's the stay-at-home mom, the famous doctor, the homeless person on the corner, the person who's experiencing homelessness rather. Every single person is so valuable. And without them, our entire world would crumble. There would be a devastating butterfly effect. So number one is getting in touch with who you are authentically, what you authentically want. Your desires are a compass. Being said, everything that you desire is meant to be yours. And we don't all desire the same things. You know, I get this question often of, okay, Ila, so you're saying everything I truly authentically desire, I'm supposed to have. So why don't we all have a private plane and a private yacht? And I'm like, that's not what we all authentically desire. Like, I'm not talking about what you desire so that people look at you or pay attention to you or validate you. I'm talking about what you want in your life that truly lights you up, whether that is being seen and heard, having your books read, or making beautiful crafts, or being a wonderful teacher, whatever it is that authentically lights you up. Maybe that's having a Birkin bag, you know, maybe it's driving a Ferrari, or maybe it's being a landscaper. Whatever that is, those desires, they are yours. They are already promised to you. They are your compass. So that's step one, is relationship with self. The second one is relationship with universe. And I feel like this is something that is so often overlooked in manifestation rhetoric, is we have this unfathomable, immeasurable power that we can tap into in the form of the universe, which is all around us and is puffing out its chest and walking around showing off for us all the time in the form of nature or coincidences. And if you can't see me, I'm saying that with, you know, air quotes, because nothing is truly a coincidence. It's constantly trying to do cartwheels in the corner and get our attention. All we have to do is plug into it. All we have to do is allow it in. And when you have this relationship with the universe, what you find is a support that's unparalleled. You know, I always say the universe is your life partner. When I need a sign, I need to know that I can go to something bigger than myself and ask for help. A blue lizard, that I'm going to see a blue lizard somehow or another. So number two is relationship with the universe. You need to allow the universe in to help facilitate the ultimate goal, the ultimate manifestation. And then the third and potentially most important facet of my practice is increasing self-worth and down blocks. Self-worth is surrounding it. So that's something that we never talk about in manifestation. We only talk about positivity. And the problem with that is, if I'm being overbearingly positive, I might be missing where my blocks are. So I might think that I want to be really successful in my career, but maybe I authentically don't want that. And maybe my block there, or maybe I authentically do want it, but I have a serious block there. And that block is fear of failure. So if I continue to get promoted and work my way through the ranks of this company and I get my way to the top, that's a pretty long way to fall. Maybe I saw someone make that fall when I was younger and I have this terrible fear. If I don't ever address that fear because I'm being, you know, I have my horse blinders of positivity on and I refuse to look at it, I'm never going to get the opportunity to explore that block and release it such that the universe can now come in and access me and facilitate those promotions, because authentically they're mine. So that's the overall framework of my manifestation practice.
Girl, I feel like you were just talking to me, because that last part, I actually, Pete, he's the shaman that was on our episode a couple of weeks ago, and we DM sometimes, and I'm just like, how are you doing? He's like, how are you doing? And I'm like, you know, and, you know, he's like, well, what makes you happy? What do you want? And like, the first thing that came out of my mouth was like, I want success. I want success in my career. And then I read it and I was like, and I want a partner, and I want to do something that helps people, and I want to do something that makes me feel good. And I want to be excited every day, and I want to feel at peace. And then I realized after I broke it down, like, that's what I want. Like, what what is like success in my job, I feel like, you know, and I have seen a parent rise and fall in their careers. And my career, or my father's career was extremely important to him, but he, you know, was either like really high or really low. And so, you know, I do think that's a block for me. And it's so interesting that you said that, and that I had this conversation with Pete last night, because I corrected myself, you know, when I gave him the answer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's so interesting because I never have given that example before. It just flowed through me today. So that's so interesting.
Well, and speaking of coincidences, I mean, that's also, you know, I think a lot of what I found too is how we imagine things isn't always the plan that the universe has for us. So we might envision things in one way, but in order to apply our gift to the world, the universe will facilitate it in another way. And for me, when it came to manifestation, I think all 3 points are essential. And it's interesting because I do see, usually, like you were talking about at the beginning, people focus on their thoughts, or, you know, it's one or the other, but to apply all 3, it makes sense. It absolutely makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
100%.
Mm-hmm.
talking about human design, how do you think that that really lends a hand to how people manifest? Because I feel like when the word manifestation became hip and trendy, whatever, people basically just thought there was this one way to do it. But I think from what we're going to hear from you is that it depends on the kind of human design you are and the kind of person you are. So how does it differ?
So here's the thing with manifestation. Just like we have opposable thumbs, just like we have conscious thought, just like, you know, we have sex for pleasure, but not every animal does that. We have certain gifts as human beings that we have access to, one of which being that we are energy workers. And so when we forget what we actually are, which is conduits of energy, we become disconnected from our ability to harness energy. And so with that being said, do you think every single person is going to be the same kind of energy worker? No, because we're not all the same kind of human being. So we have an immense amount of respect for physiological differences. So, for example, if I have a child in my classroom and I'm a teacher, which I'm not, but let's just say, and their parents tell me, you know, they have a serious peanut allergy, I'm going to be seriously cognizant of that child's potential illness, right? Versus when it comes to our energetic differences, we really don't take that into account. We actually completely negate it. And that's why I say human design, manifestation, all of it, spirituality, wellness, it's not a one size fits all gig. So for example, if we take diet culture, which I am by no means a proponent of, but let's just say we talk about wellness and health or fitness. It's a fact that I could eat and work out and sleep and drink the same amount of water as a different human being, and we will have different results because physiologically we're different. And just like in diet culture, we don't take that into account with people. You know, it's like everyone needs to be keto. I could never be keto. That would be disastrous for my hormones. I could never do that, right? And I don't think that health and wellness looks the same on everyone. And similarly, human design gives us, and it can take someone 10 years to figure out what actually works for their body. And they might find at the end of the day, wow, it's not all of this restrictive diet culture. It's actually intuitive eating that worked. And now I feel great about myself and I love myself. And I'm okay that I'm 20 pounds bigger than that model because healthy looks different on both of us. And I'm actually healthy or whatever it is. But in manifestation, I feel like we completely negate that. And so human design gives us a chart of information about how we harness energy, how, for example, Sari and I create energy within our body. You don't create energy within your body, Sam.
So you guys are the same?
We're not the same, but we're similar. I mean, no two people are going to be the same. And even if they are, there's going to be differences, just that, you know, no two human beings are going to be the same, even twins. But Sari and I have some foundational similarities whereby we'd be able to connect on those. Like our human design type is the same, our authority is the same. So long answer short, human design gives us a skip the line pass. So unlike me, who had to bumble around for 20 years, like in abusive relationships, having issues in life, never making the amount of money I wanted to, being poor, blah, 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 I was able to transcend every single one of those to my dream life, which I'm still evolving through. You know, I'm at where I want to be now, but now there's the next thing I want to achieve. But I was that so much by having all of this information. And at first, I didn't know that I believed it. I just tried it because I had tried everything at that point and I was willing to try anything else. And finally, I found something that worked really, really well. So even though I've been babbling for a long time, I actually do want to add one more thing to this. Human design and manifestation are actually inextricable. So it's really, really a fool's errand to be manifesting without understanding who you are. Because like I said, relationship with self is one of the primary tenets to your manifestation practice. And if human design gives you all of that information and tells you how you can best manifest, why would you skip? Why wouldn't you just take that information and start implementing it?
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
And while you were talking, something that really popped into my head was kind of like, if we're all plants, you know, like one of us is a tree, one of us is a flower, one of us is an orchid, and all different types of flowers, like we would all be plants and all need water to survive, but we have to take care of ourselves differently, you know, to each grow and thrive. Like you can't just put the same amount of water in all these different plants. You know, you have to do it, maybe put it in the sun, like do it during a certain time. And that for me, as like a very literal person, like that makes sense because we know that to be true. And
Correct.
so us as humans, that should also be true spiritually in a different way. It just really came to my mind. Does that resonate with you guys? Does that make sense?
That's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah, I agree with you. And that's a really beautiful way to put it. If we think about biodiversity, exactly what you were saying, if we had, you know, these monocrops that we have in agriculture, whereby we plant, you know, several thousand acres of corn, it's devastating to the environment because we're not allowing true biodiversity. Similarly, in our own society, we don't allow people to have diversity or to be different or to operate differently. We don't have respect for those differences. We're also busy trying to fit into this one mold. And so if I could give anyone one piece of advice with manifestation or spirituality, it would be just be a little bit more critical of what you're consuming, you know, even when it comes from me. Don't listen to me just because I seem confident in what I'm talking about. Does it resonate with you? Does it work for you?
But a couple more things about manifesting. So when did you, or in a human design, when did human design start? Like, do you have any idea the history? Is this I feel like this is a newer thing that people recognize.
It feels like lately there's a lot of people who are kind of
jumping on the bandwagon.
Yeah, jumping on the bandwagon. I'm seeing more and more of it. So, yeah.
So absolutely. I don't see human design going anywhere but up. I do feel like as astrology has been able to become more mainstream, because even things are changing so rapidly now. Even 2 years ago, you didn't have these like meme accounts for zodiac signs whereby they would take like pictures of whatever millennial socialites or influencers, I guess is the word now, who like they'll plaster like Scorpio, Sagittarius, Leo over a group of 3 friends. And you know what I'm talking about, like Kendall Jenner, Kylie, and whatever their other friends' names are, they'll like put them up and be like, this is the Scorpio, this is the sign, whatever. I noticed in my friend groups, people are just giving more weight to astrology. So as that sort of breaks open a portal for other things to come through, I feel like human design is going to go nowhere but up. And so to answer your question, human design was discovered in the 80s by a man named Ra Uruhu, who was in Ibiza, where all good stories start, or Ibiza if you're Spanish, where all good stories start. He was in a meditation and he was able to download extra dimensional information. So if we think about someone like Esther Hicks, who speaks to a band of consciousness, Abraham, she calls them, where she downloads information and shares it with people. Similarly, Ra Uruhu was a conduit to this information. And so he went into this reverie where he was creating, you know, these charts and explaining them and taking all the information and feverishly writing it down. And so that's where we got it. And that was in the 80s. And I think going forward, it's just going to explode, because where astrology tells you information about who you are, what your personality is like. I know I'm a Sagittarius. I know I love to travel. I know you can't pin me down. I know I feel like I'm giving a lot, but I seem elusive to people. I know these things about me, but now what do I do with those things? And that's where human design swoops in as a great supplement or complement to astrology, because human design does actually integrate some astrology into it, into the chart. But it's really useful for giving you tools like, how do I manifest? How do I make decisions?
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And, when I got my first human design reading, it was very, oh, sorry, do you hear? There was a weird sound. I feel like it's Mercury retrograde, right? I don't know what's happening. I know it's Mars.
Is it still Mars retrograde?
Such a bitch, yeah.
Didn't it end? I think it ended.
No, it's supposed to go through November 13th. Yeah, which is my Scorpio brother's birthday. And it's funny because we're not getting along too well right now. And I'm like, this makes sense. It like ends on your birthday, you Scorpio.
That's so funny. Yeah. Also, a note on retrogrades when it comes to manifestation is Mercury retrograde, for example, is amazing for manifestation. So
really? Wait, can you expand on that?
Pardon?
Can you expand on that? That's fascinating.
Yeah, I would be so happy to, because this is like such important information. So everyone hates Mercury retrograde. They're always freaking out. Everyone's like, oh my God, the bane of my existence. But it happens so frequently that like we can't, live in terror of the retrogrades. And so Mercury retrograde is one of my favorites because it's like a booster pack to your manifestations. So it shakes everything up. It's super uncomfortable. But if you think about Mario Kart, which I'm sure most people are familiar with Mario Kart, you know how sometimes you'll bump into that booster and you'll go really, really fast, but you lose control of the steering. So you're more likely up, it swallows up the ground underneath your feet, arranging things that could never have happened if it weren't for a Mercury retrograde. So at the end of it, you're like, I look like I've been, banged through a bush backwards, but I have all this stuff that worked out. And like, this person fired me and that person broke up with me and this person was revealed as a liar and that was really tough. But whoa, I'm like 7 months ahead of where I would have been if this week hadn't been so shit. Like look at all the, and I hope I can swear on this because
You're good.
Look at all this amazing stuff that's come through. So it's like a really, really bumpy ride, but it moves you super quick towards your manifestation. So that's when like the cheating partner gets discovered or whatever it is, it's usually not a fun way to go about it. It's uncomfortable, but it's flying versus driving, right? So flying is quick, but sometimes bumpy. Driving is slow, steady. We feel safe in cars for the most part. It's that kind of a situation.
I'm not a fan of flying, so now I can see why my discomfort makes sense. It's been, I will tell you, it has been a rough, since this retrograde started, and it was almost like spot on where it was like everything you just named. I'm like, yeah, tick that box. It's been a rough couple of weeks. So to know that I can harness that power.
No, it's because I know Sarah has been going through it. As a lot of us are, but it's like I feel like I kind of switch off between my friends during this time. Like I'll be okay finally, and I'll call a friend, and I'm like, I'm feeling better, and they're like, I feel like shit. Like, it's but it's a really tough transformation. I always keep on seeing these memes on Instagram, basically with like a caterpillar turning into a butterfly, and how uncomfortable it is. When the caterpillar is like breaking out of whatever it's called, their cocoon. Yeah, the cocoon. But yeah, that's and one of the reasons we started this show too is because that's what this time is. It's uncomfortable, like you said earlier. I don't remember if we were recording or not, but it wasn't fun to be on an airplane. It's scary to be on an airplane right now. You don't feel safe, and you don't know like what's going on. And so I love helping to provide tools for people to let them know, like, just because things feel bad, it's not the end of the world, that we're just going through some emotional or spiritual puberty, I guess. That's what I'll call it.
That's a really good way to put it.
Like, that wasn't fun. It wasn't fun at all.
Right. That's a good way to put it, though.
Yeah. So there was something on the Wellness Bar Instagram that I found super interesting about energy inventory. Can you tell us a little bit about what that means?
Yes. So one of the tools I teach my clients is how to take an energetic inventory of their life. And so if we think about energy as the predominant currency instead of money, it takes a little bit of a shift of perspective. But I'm going to take you guys back a little bit to build that foundation. So right now we think about money as the tool that we trade in to, live in our home or buy our food or whatever. Really, it's energy. So even if you're getting money from your job, it's not anything but energy that you're trading in to get that money. So it's not your punctuality or your experience, because when you're ill, you're still punctual, you still have all your experience, you don't have any energy to give them that day. So you're literally trading in energy every single time you do anything in a day. It is an energetic transaction. So this conversation is an energetic transaction. I'm entering into it, making my energy available to you ladies, making myself available, and vice versa. And we're together coming together to share our energy with your listenership, right? In a loving exchange of like, this fulfills me because my overall intention is to help give people tools and resources. And then it helps them wonderful information that you're finding and picking out and painstakingly creating and forming and then gifting to them, right? So everything is an energetic transaction. That's something that we need to take account of, just like how we take account of our finances. So money, for example, cannot buy time, can't buy love, can't buy happiness, but energy can buy those things. Energy can buy you time if you invest your energy into, good cardio health. Maybe you'll save yourself some time because you won't have that heart attack at whatever age. Or you can invest that energy into your relationship, and that's giving you love. Or you can invest your energy into, my dog is sleeping in the corner, he brings me happiness. My energetic investment in that relationship buys me happiness and buys him happiness. So when we start to shift the perspective and look at every single move of our life as an energetic transaction, we have to become cognizant of, do I want to spend my energy there? Do I want to? So for example, my relationship is very fulfilling for me, but I've been in relationships that are the antithesis of that. And so what you do is you take an energetic inventory whereby you look at where your fucking energy is going. Do I consent to that? I've been in jobs that, even though they were great jobs and, everything was fine and whatever, it just, my soul stopped consenting to it. So I was still going and doing it. My dog just freaked out because I snapped my fingers. That's my so it's okay, you're okay. So I stopped consenting to it because my soul was like, sister, get back on your path, keep moving. This is done. You've learned everything you have to learn here. And now you're just staying for a paycheck. And that's very small of you because you can make more money if you continue on your path. So I had to stop and listen and reckon with the fact that my soul no longer energetically consented to that output of energy. And that's a considerable output if you think about 10 to 12 hours a day in an office, that your soul is like, hit the road, Jack, get out of here. And you're insisting on staying. What happens is you burn out or you go energetically bankrupt. So when we're talking about an energetic inventory, you need to take a really sobering inventory of even things like the family dinner you go to once a week with maybe family members who are not validating you or who are not respecting your boundaries. You no longer owe them your energy. So take it back and instead harness that energy into your manifestations, transmute that energy into more money, more love, more power, more freedom, more laughter, more whatever. So that's in a nutshell what an energetic inventory is.
And it's so important to take stock of things because we enter into situations for the most part feeling okay that you are still honest with what you want and what you're getting in return. Yeah,
completely. Exactly.
Yeah. And as far as career, which I find so interesting, that you talked about, because as a millennial and just like came from a hardworking family that, basically I was taught from a young age, suck it up, because if you put in the work, even if it sucks and you're miserable and you're abused at work by a crazy boss and you're yelled at and you go home crying and feeling like shit, that's okay, because you'll get somewhere one day. And I was a Hollywood assistant for a long time, and I dealt with that, and I was told that this was normal, and that you'll get there, you'll get there. And after a lot of, unfulfilled promises by my male superiors, mostly male, I was like, what am I doing? Oh my God, like I'm making myself sick. I have insane anxiety 24/7 because the second I hear a certain pitch of someone's voice, I feel like they're yelling at me. And I wish I would have had those tools then, because I would have said, get out. Like, you're young, but I had a great education, like there was no reason to feel buried by that kind of stress and pressure. And so I just hope that people that are listening and watching, if you're in that kind of situation, like you can find something else. And it might not be what you thought you were going to do, but you're probably going to be able to fast track yourself to a happier, more calm state of being.
The reason that we can't just exit out of those situations, even though, you're telling me like, your nerves were shot, you were panicky, you weren't able to synthesize information properly, you're paranoid, it's scary, you're like not sleeping well. None of that sounds fun. So it's easy for me to stand here and be like, well, why don't you just leave? Because that's not serving you. But you have years of built up conditioning that is teaching you this is what you do to make it, right? We have all of these ridiculous sayings and mottos like work hard, play hard. I made a rule every time I would see on somebody who was trying to recruit me a job that said work hard, play hard. I would be like, no, because I know what that means. I work my ass off, but what they're asking me now is not just to work hard for them, but to play with them. Those are the companies that make you like, go bowling with them every Friday and like go for a company drink. No, I'm not into that shit. I want to go home at the end of the day. If I like anyone from here, I'll hang out with them without your help. Thank you very much.
That's so
So it's easy to say like, that man has been cheating on you and you're destroyed and you can't sleep and you're sick and you're paranoid and you're smelling his collar every day. Why aren't you leaving? Because I have all this conditioning and I have a low self-worth around it and I believe that this is what I deserve, and so here I am. So what I try and do, one of the main things I do with people is identify that trains of thought that will become natural to you, so that you get to a point where it's not, I want a Birkin, I'm going to manifest it off of a list, and then I want a Ferrari, and then I want a yacht, and then I want a helicopter, and then. That's not the point of all of this. The point of all of this is, how do I get to a place where anything I authentically want, I truly believe in myself that I can go get it? And when horrible things happen, because that's not an if, that's a when, bad things do happen, what tools do I have in my backpack that I can pull out and use to help me get through this? What tools do I have to cross this river, this hole in the ground, so that I can continue on my journey and not be sucked into whatever awful thing is happening? So it's not about negating the bad things. It's about traversing them in a more efficient way with all of the tools that you've built. And it's about finding where your conditioning is and being like, fuck that. I thought I had a great job with great money and great benefits and great prestige, and I got to wear nice heels and lipstick and great clothes to work every day. That's all I wanted, egoically, was for everyone to see me and be like, look how powerful she is. But I wasn't happy. Why wasn't I happy? Because instead I want to be a hippie out in the forest. And I had the duality of these two things in my life. And I didn't realize that I didn't need that job to be happy, and that actually I could make a lot of money not working for someone else. And actually I can still wear heels and go to the supermarket and look important if I want to. And it's an authentic, and it brings me just enjoying who I am and being who I am, and people enjoying that and me enjoying them, right?
Amen.
Yeah.
Seriously.
I also wanted to get into which I know that we'll get into our human design thing in a few minutes, but something that I've always found interesting about it is the parts of the body that, people, what is it, the term that like, what comes from, like, I'm a spleen, like
authority,
yeah. The authority. Like, what does that mean? Is this actually coming from the physical part of your body? Like, how does this work?
So in Hinduism, this is drawing upon the Hindu chakra system. So in my culture, we believe that we have these energy centers within our body. And then human design takes it a little bit further and adds 9 chakras. So there's 9 chakras that human design recognizes in the body. And each of those is associated or correlated to a physical place in your body. So yours is the spleen. So your spleen has everything to do with intuition and survival. And that's your authority. And so the authority, because you have 9 chakras that are all taking in information, the chakra system intelligently elects a supervisor on site. And so that supervisor on site is, we're all taught to use this. So we might, romantically be taught to use your heart or use your gut, but we're not actually, no one actually makes decisions from those places. Like, and when you do, everyone shakes their fear all over you. Like if I said tomorrow, well, not me, because I've like basically trained everyone in my life not to do this with me, but a couple of decades ago, had I said like, I want to live on Mars, everyone would be like, who's gonna tell her that that's not a thing, right? And so everyone would shake their fear onto me. And so I would be making these decisions with my head. Well, logically, I should go to law school. So even though I don't want to work 80 hours to 100 hours a week, and even though I find law dull, I'm going to be a lawyer because that's going to afford me the red bottom shoes that I really want to wear. And that's going to afford me the first class flights that I know I need to be on. And so we make decisions from our head, which that chakra system as an authority is pretty rare to have. It's rare to have a mental authority. So you, for example, your authority, if I backtrack a little, the authority is what you make your decisions from. It's what guides you through. It's how you synthesize information and decide how it's distributed throughout the rest of your body. Yours is your spleen. And so for you, that means that when you want to make a decision, you're not going to consult this. You're going to consult this and decide, how do I feel about this intuitively? And so it's unparalleled. It's a yes or no. Sorry, Riker. It's a very firm yes or no. Versus someone with a mental authority, they actually would need to like speak it out loud to other people, hear themselves thinking about it, and make a logical, clean decision that way. For you, it might make no sense because it's just going to come from this intuitive knowing. So a really good example I use to sort of crystallize how the spleen works is my fiance and I have some land up north. I don't know if you guys know Ontario very well, but there's this vacation cottage area called Muskoka. So like New York has the Hamptons, Toronto has, that's kind of how I conceptualize it.
Okay.
So we have some land up there on the lake that we've built nothing on yet. And so we went to water some trees that we had just planted there. And as we were doing that, our neighbor's contractor and I were having a conversation with also my fiance, Alec, and we were all talking and he seemed really nice and friendly and he was showing us all around, blah, blah, blah. We get on the golf cart to go back to my mother-in-law's cottage, which is just down the street. And I said to Alec, like, he was like, that guy seems super great. Like, nice guy, eh? And I was like, no, that guy has girls in his basement. Like, there's something off with that guy. And so Alec was like, Ila, like, you're so judgy. Like, that's not nice to say about someone. And I was like, I don't know. He just has those vibes. Like, he's just, no, I wouldn't want to be alone at night with him. And then we get to my mother-in-law's and we're sitting out on the porch having a charcuterie board chatting. And I forgot, she goes to water our trees. Hey, there's this guy, a contractor doing work at the neighbors. Maybe just like, don't be alone with him. She goes, yeah, girls in the basement vibes with that guy. That is the spleen. So Alec looked at both of us and we both have our spleens lit up. So both of us have that splenic information. It makes no sense. There's no rhyme or reason to it. Sam, you just know things. You just know things about the world that other people don't. It would be a fool's errand to lie to you or to play any kind of bullshit with you. You would see through it like that. And even if you didn't want to believe it, you would be the person who's like, there is something seriously off with that situation. The spleen is what would go like, that person ain't it. That person's fucking around and that's bullshit. And then everyone else, me and Sari, would be like, what do you mean? She's so nice. Why don't you like her? And you'd be like, there's something wrong with her. Lo and behold, we find out something shady later. That's you.
Well, here's an interesting, and I won't get too personal in it because it's not necessarily my story to tell, but this was a time that before I knew what this whole thing was, that I think my spleen was activated. I had a best friend and she was dating a guy from Bumble. And before I even met him, I mean, I think it's also, there's intuition, but there's also reading people and reading people's behaviors. Like that is maybe part of intuition, but it's also anybody can do it. And I knew there was something not right about him. So my friend's boyfriend like kind of broke in on a girls' night situation, and we met him and we were sitting there, and I knew something was so very wrong with this guy. And I left very upset, and my friends were like, "What's wrong with you?" And I was like, "There's something not right with him. There's something not right with him." And he had been beating her dog. And it got really very dangerous and bad.
He had been beating her dog?
He had been the dog was getting all these random injuries, and she took it to the vet, didn't know what, and they said, "Are you sure no one's hurting her dog?" She goes, "Of course no one's hurting my dog." And then, it's just broken ribs, and like, well, there's just random disease that dogs can get where their ribs randomly break, and and then as it turns out, he was beating the dog. And I couldn't really be friends with, I think she was very, probably felt stupid that I had pointed it out. And that I didn't think he was beating the dog. I just knew there was something off. Something very off. So, but so I want to get into our human designs, because what I learned as a projector, which is the thing that really made me be like, this is me, is that I will say things and believe things to be true. And a lot of the times I am right. However, people don't want to listen to me until I'm really asked about that information. Let's get into our human designs, because that is something like the story I just told you. And nobody listened to me, and they called me a bitch and crazy, and that I was just lonely and jealous. But I was right. Like I was very right. So yeah, let's just get into.
Okay, but just sidebar. Why would anybody like put their neck out like that and be like, "There's something wrong with your guy"? Like no one wants to say anything like that to their friends.
No, but I do have a tendency of just kind of saying whatever it is that I feel,
which is a good thing.
I mean, like
so yeah, like, can you tell us about ourselves? And well, actually, let's start with Sari, because I'm so excited to know what she is.
I'm excited to know too. I've never done this before, so I'm brand new. So what is the verdict?
Okay, so there's 5 energy types. So I'm just going to stop, because for anybody who doesn't know a lot about human design, there's 5 different energy types. From there, there's a bunch of different authorities. From there, there's a bunch of different energetic gates. So, and then there's channels. So I just want everybody to know that your foundational energy type is important. It's so important. It gives communication. Our energy types doesn't mean that we're going to be the same person. So I just want everybody to know there's still so many differences. So there's 5 energy types. They're manifestors. They make up about 8% of the world. They're like leaders, kings, queens, rulers. I always say their motto is like, don't ask, tell, and then do, do what you have to do to make things happen, right? Because you are our great initiators in the world. And like airplanes, for example, would never exist if a manifesting energy wasn't like, this is insane and everyone's going to think I'm crazy, but I'm doing it anyway. And look at how they revolutionize society. So that's the manifestor. Then there's the projector, which we will get into. That's what Sam is. And projectors are about 20% of the world. I have a special affinity for projectors. I recently found out almost all of my closest friends are projectors. They're our guides, our teachers, our leaders. I always say they live like 10 to 15 years ahead of the rest of the world. They're just highly, highly, highly intelligent. And then we have our reflectors. Reflectors are the rarest energy type. They're only about 1% of the world. They are basically chameleons. They can be anything, do anything, and they are characterized by having no authority to speak of. So they have no energy centers lit up. They're very, very interesting. They can essentially shapeshift into anything they want to be. And so they tend to reflect back the health of our communities to us. And we'll get high off of their energy. So if you leave a conversation with a generator, you'll be buzzing with their energy. They are really meant to have easy lives. The problem with generators is that they have so much more conditioning than everybody else, because they're taught to be worker bees, because they have a consistent flow of energy that they have access to. So they actually burn out almost more than anyone else does, because they've just been leveraged the wrong way. But what they're meant to be in their highest expression is life of the party. Everyone loves a generator. Everyone wants the generator around. They're fun. They're great. They're meant to have easy, great lives. They're not supposed to initiate. They're just supposed to respond to things. The universe sends them options on a silver platter and they say yes or no. That's kind of the life of a generator. Then we have manifesting generators, which are a hybrid of the manifestor and the generator. So imagine how powerful of a type that is. So manifesting generators are kind of erratic in their energy. They want to do everything. They're also very sparkly. They are also initiators. They're here for a good time, not a long time type of people. So they come in, they start the fire, they leave, someone else tends to it all night. Like that's the manifesting generator. So Sam is a projector, and Sari, you are a generator, which is just.
Oh, wow. Oh my gosh, you froze. Oh no.
I'll leave this part in because this is funny. There you go. You froze. Sorry.
You froze
Yeah.
after you said you.
Tell us about generators, where their authority is from again, and like how this pertains to everything.
So they can have a different authority. You have a sacral authority, just like myself. And so the sacral authority is the gut. And for the gut, essentially, we can make all of our decisions like that. In 1 second, our gut will say yes or no. So what I tell most people, but specifically sacral generators, is don't think through your day, feel through your day. So I used to wake up in the morning and I had horrific anxiety for years. Like at one point when I was, I think 17 or 18, I was like borderline agoraphobic. Like I couldn't leave my house. I had such crippling anxiety, which now is like, I mean, I live a really great life now, and I have so many tools to work with it. But one of the biggest things that helped me was learning when my gut was speaking to me, that wasn't anxiety. It was actually my gut speaking. So now it feels good. It doesn't feel so horrible. It used to feel like 1,000 times a day I would have this up and down influx. Nothing in between, just total excitement, total dread. And so the gut is really interesting because it's quite visceral in that it's one end of the spectrum or not. So one of the mottos for the gut that we say in human design is, if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no. There's no in between for us. We feel great about something and then we can pursue that. Even if logically it makes no sense, it will make sense later versus if we're not interested in something or we have that dread, panicky, frozen-y feeling, it's a no. And so I used to wake up in the morning and be like, oh my God, I have to call Alex's assistant. We need to do this. We need to do that. I think it's my mom's birthday this week. I need to, whatever, blah, blah, blah. There was always a million things in my head going on. And and instantly I'm like, I need to burn this many calories. I need to eat this amount of food. I need to go on that walk. I need to take my dog here. I need to go to work and I have to run a morning meeting and then blah, blah, blah. Versus now I've shifted into a feeling state of being. So I wake up in the morning and I feel my expensive sheets that I spent money on, that I want to enjoy the sensation of. I hug my dog and get that oxytocin flowing. I make a beautiful Americano every morning. I smell the coffee beans, or the espresso beans rather. I go outside and I take in all the gorgeous sights of all of the nature around me, even though I live in a city whereby I'm taking information through my senses instead of through my brain of like, oh my God, Alex is going to work late tonight and I have to make him dinner and I wanted to host a dinner party next week and I didn't get fresh florals and the house isn't going to look good. And, just all this, a lot of unproductive blah, blah, blah going on in my brain.
So can you tell us about how our two signs are, what is it? It's types, right?
Oh, types. Yeah.
Okay, types. Manifest the best. Like what ways?
When it comes to manifestation, I usually like to look at the gates as well. So I like to do a more in-depth reading because, for example, your sun gates will tell me information like how your purpose expresses itself through your personality, right? So that's important information for me too when I'm helping people optimize their manifestation practice. I would say though, when it comes to projectors, you don't have a ton of energy at your disposal. It doesn't mean you don't have energy to socialize or to work out or anything like that. We're not talking about like a physiological state of energy necessarily. We're talking about the energy you have to harness into your manifestations. And so for you, I would say one of the top tips I give is like, you need a luxurious alone space. Projectors need a space because they are so ahead of the rest of us. They need a space where they're able to really decompress. They by nature are extremely empathetic. So they take in so much more than the rest of us. You know, if the three of us went to that, we're not going to see. She's going to be the one who's like looking around, taking in that couple is fighting. This person looks unhappy. That person's crying in the bathroom. That bartender looks stressed out. Did that girl's drink just get drugged? What's going on? Where are the exits? That's Sam versus you and me are going to be like, life is so fun, drinks, you know? And
You totally nailed that.
Sam needs a lone space, and it usually, projectors love luxury. They just like want easy, beautiful, nice things around them. And so she would need this alone space where she can really decompress and demagnetize all the stimulus that she's experienced. Like crowded malls at Christmas Eve, not your thing. You're not going to like that. You're going to walk in there and be like, ooh, I feel so drained, you know? Which I don't know if anyone really likes it, but it takes on a new meaning for projectors, right?
Yeah.
So when it comes to your manifestation practice, if you want more energy available to yourself, you need to be really, really strict with the amount of output that you have going out. So for example, generators have a consistent amount of energy that we have available to us to power into our manifestations. We just need to make sure that energetically we're consenting 10 million% to it, because as soon as we're excited about something, like we're good to go. Like I can do something I love for 35 hours. I can go to the same restaurant I love 100 times and never get bored of the beautiful wine that they serve or the ambiance that they have. You know, my partner, for example, I will never get bored of that man. I will never get sick of watching him walk through the door with his rosy cheeks and his like beautiful body and his like energy. I will never get sick of that emotion, you know? So every time I see him, I'll get energy from it because I love it and I energetically consent to it still. Versus for Sam, it's a little bit different. As if she wants to remain that high level of like inflow, manifesting consistently, having energy, she's going to need more space away from everything. So even though she might really, 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 really love something, she's not going to want to do it 24 hours a day. She's going to need space from it. She's going to want to revisit it in her own time. The other thing with projectors is that they're teachers and they're guides. They're meant to take our hands and pull us toward the future. So they have a heavier, more weighted purpose typically in the world, where they're trying to see things. Like Sam, I'm sure your entire life you've lived in a frustration of sorts, whereby you've been like, there's a better way to do this. Why aren't you guys listening to me? That is the marker of a projector. They live 10 to 15 years ahead of the rest of us typically. So there's an inherent separation there. There's an inherent, I don't want to say loneliness because it doesn't feel lonely to you. You like to have your space alone. You like things on your terms, right? Versus it's just a little bit different for a generator and a projector. So when it comes to manifestation, it's really about understanding how energy flows through you and how you harness it. So without looking at your gates and stuff on a baseline, I would say feeling through the day instead of thinking through the day would be important for both of you. Sam, I would say for you, it would be having really strong boundaries around you. Like you can't just let anyone into your life. You don't have a big enough buffer to keep them out. Like they will really stick with you for longer.
Take advantage, you know.
They can take advantage. For you, sorry, it's really important that you don't allow people to take your energy where you don't want it directed. So that means spending your energy in a way that truly brings you joy. As long as you're happy as a generator, everyone's happy around you. And when you're happy, you're going to be able to manifest so much better, right?
Oh, that's amazing. That is.
Yeah. I mean, it's totally accurate. As I hear you talking, I'm like, it just, everything hits home to me. It makes sense too. I mean, I'm so glad that you also taught me to go with feeling, because a lot of, now that I know this, I think I could work with it, where normally I try to reason with what I'm feeling, and that gets me into trouble. I'm like, where do I go? You know, I fight for this logical side when I'm much better off going with how I'm feeling.
Exactly, 100%.
Yeah.
The brain is constantly trying to pull up. What is the brain trying to do? Keep you safe. How does it keep you safe? It pulls up all of this conditioning, all of this information that it's learned, you know, that our parents taught us. Like my dad, for example, he's an athlete. He works out a couple hours a day. He's a businessman. He's very successful. And he's always taught me, like, we're wolves. We go for it. We go hard. We don't do anything half-assed. We don't let anyone fuck with us. We don't go to people. They come to us. Well, all this conditioning that I have in my brain that I need to stop myself, like, to share something intimate. My fiance, for example, is like, why are you so aloof with me? Like, the jig is up. I know you want to be with me. I know you like me. You agreed to marry me, so you can stop playing hard to get. And I think back to my dad and how he was always like, don't ever let anyone feel too comfortable with your affection, And I'm like, oh my God, Dad. So then I will stop myself before I text Alex something lovely. And then I'm like, no, Isla, just say what you want to say to the person you love. Just be excited about life. And then I'll message him and he'll be like, babe, thank you so much. I know that was difficult for you. It's about peeling back this conditioning slowly, right?
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Ila. This has been eye-opening. And sorry, guys, we had a little guest appearance here. Fellow Sagittarius for you, Buffy. She likes the limelight. So tell us a little bit, just lastly, about the Wellness Bar and where everyone can find you and like what you're up to.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Wellness Bar is a community that I started a couple of years ago. We talk about manifestation, we talk about human design. It's a really loving, supportive community. You can find us on Facebook via the Wellness Bar, or you can follow us on Instagram at the Wellness Bar 1. And then also, if you ever want to learn more about working with me, I don't take everyone on. It's a super intimate process, and I have a very limited amount of space for that. But you can for sure reach out. We can talk about one-on-one sessions, but I always have availability for human design readings. So if you're interested, feel free to reach out to me at the Wellness Bar 1. And then my personal Instagram, if anyone is curious, because the Wellness Bar has nothing with my own personal life, so sometimes it's nice for people to see a connection between the two, is at Ila Claire. So that's at ILACLARE.
But Ila, thank you so much, and thank you for sharing everything. I really hope this is helpful for people. Any last messages or words of wisdom you'd like to share during this time?
About my practice and my process, you can either follow me at the Wellness Bar 1, but you can also listen to the podcast on Spotify, which is just the Wellness Bar. So you can go ahead and find that. It's 3 separate words, not one big word, the Wellness Bar. And yeah, feel free to join the Facebook. I am a small, intimate, high quality community. But yeah, this is a pleasure, guys. And thanks for letting me share some of my thoughts with you.
Please. We'd love to have you on again in the future. I feel like to dive deeper, and maybe we can get a listener to jump in on the fun, and you can read them. Sorry for the technical difficulties. I don't know who to blame. I guess Mars, apparently. I'm gone again.
There you are. You're back. You're back now.
All right.
I'm telling you, it's like the game of charades.
I know.
The digital game of charades.
Yeah, hopefully that you guys are watching. You'll have no idea how many technical difficulties there were during
Sam's a great editor. She's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well,
go ahead, Sarah.
Oh no, I was just gonna say thank you. It was such a pleasure hanging out with you today, and I feel like everything that I think my spirit and my heart needed to hear, you reminded me of today and let me know of today. So thank you for that.
So nice. Well, thank you ladies for having me. It was a pleasure speaking. I'd love to speak with you more in the future. And I hope that everybody benefits from this info, and looking forward to hearing what people think.
Yes, and for all of our watchers and listeners, don't forget to rate, review, subscribe. You can find myself, Sam Davidson, at SamD43 on Instagram and Twitter, Sari at The Savvy Scribbler. But most importantly, don't forget to follow us at Spiritual Spiral Show. And we're still having this competition going. If you give us a review on iTunes, you could be in the running to get a free live reading on the air. So please continue to do that. And thank you again, Ila. And thanks, everyone. We'll see you next week.